Hello and welcome to Moneylife. This is Sucheta Dalal. The war is almost over, isn't it? Let's just hope so, fingers crossed. But the impact, not yet. It's going to continue for a while. And though all of us have been relatively silent, there's been this quiet squeeze on our wallets. And it's something that nobody wants to talk about. But we need to, because the end of the war is not going to be the end of our problems. We have the monsoon to worry about. So, the only visible blot in the official narrative is that the rupee is sliding. So, what is the official narrative? That India is doing great. Its real gross domestic product, GDP, grew 7.7% in the quarter ending March 2026. The consumer price index averaged under 4. Nothing to worry about. Prices are stable, but your pocket doesn't feel like that, right? The only thing that gets discussed, that too by some independent influencers or opposition, is the steady slide, and I wouldn't even call it a slide, a collapse of the rupee, 11 to 12% in the last year, doing worse than most other peer currencies. Although nobody wants to talk about it, it is the Indian middle class, which appears financially stable on the surface, that is actually taking the pressure. And yeah, EMIs may not have gone up openly, but you know that you're feeling the pinch because you're spending more on health, on education, your lifestyle has changed, you're eating out less often, and your savings are kind of vanishing. Job insecurity is really high. Even those getting salaries in excess of 1 lakh rupees don't know if they're going to be sacked tomorrow with a pink slip arriving on email overnight. And the less said about people in gig operations, the better. So, finance, information technology, all the new age industries appear great on the surface, but you never know if the job will last. Now, the war with Iran and the blockade of Hormuz rattled the world. India is not alone. On one hand, you could say that what we are facing has happened to the world. So, what is the problem? There's no problem. We are facing what the rest of the world has faced. But the Indian rupee depreciated more sharply than other currencies. And this decline is after the Reserve Bank of India's strenuous efforts to arrest the slide through market intervention and support operations. But more the RBI intervened, eating into our forex reserves, the more foreign direct investment and foreign portfolio investment was leaving India. Now, whether it is the rupee's weakness, the scramble to secure supplies of oil and gas and fertilizer, the prospect of cost push inflation, India's predicament is largely self inflicted as a result of policy complacency. A well governed state anticipates risks, prepares contingency plans, builds resilience against multiple adverse scenarios. India failed on these fronts to plan adequately before the crisis and respond swiftly once it unfolded. They should have had policy measures to retain foreign capital and protect the rupee rather than only RBI intervention, and to maintain adequate strategic petroleum reserves, as was done by China and Japan, to cushion the impact of the sudden spike in energy prices. We had some, but not enough. Luckily, the war has ended before there's a crisis situation. Now, look at what happened with the biggest outflow leading to pressure on the rupee, the exodus of foreign portfolio investors. Why did they go? Because we tax capital gains at a high percentage, and then your rupee is collapsing, which means that they can never make money in India because it's unrealistic at this point of time. So, what do? They take their money out, and they have pulled out 2.25 lakh crores, which is about 27 to 30 billion US dollars from Indian equities cumulatively in 2026. And this exceeds the full year outflow of 1.66 lakh crore in 2025. So 2026, just 6 months, is 2.25 lakh crore. Last whole year, 1.66 lakh crore. Now, cumulative net flows in the past 12 months are nearing 40 billion across segments. And the government just watched because we will not change our capital gains tax. And we had this belief that Indian investors pouring money into SIPs are going to take the give an exit to the foreigners and take the heat. Now, Finally, it woke up because growing anxiety among domestic investors, which began to finally affect their SIP contributions, amplified by criticism on social media from influential government supporters, finally punctured the belief that we have our retail investors to thank for and they'll permanently stand there giving an exit to foreign investors. By then, of course, the rupee had slid to 96.5 to a dollar and was heading towards 100 when the government realized that RBI intervention alone won't work. So there's been a limited marginal adjustments to try and hold foreign investment back. So a weak currency and a rising import bill quickly translate to high inflation. They squeeze household budgets across the spectrum. But like I said, hardly any discussion. Look at the situation. India imports 85% of its crude oil, 60% of edible oil, substantial quantity of pulses, fertilizers, and electronic components. All the things that we can't do without. Now, every rupee of depreciation against the US dollar adds thousands of crores to this import bill, especially for oil and energy. What are the consequences? Let's look at them one by one. Start with your kitchen. Already, higher cost of fuel, cooking gas, food has impacted us in what we pay every month or what we buy, whether it's on your roadside dhaba or wherever. Your cost of travel and healthcare, steadily eroding purchasing power across income groups is evident. For affluent Indians, it doesn't mean much. All they worry about is paying for their children studying abroad or one foreign holiday less. It is the middle class where it's tougher, the balancing act, because, like I said, you're servicing a home EMI most of the time and you're paying more for daily living expenses. Look at everybody's problems when LPG gas prices went up several times. That is integral whether or not you're living on food subsidies. Then you have your laptops, tablets, smartphones, which are now essential. They're not a luxury. Students need them. Ever since COVID, it's become an integral part of our life. These have gone up 5 to 10% because most components, key components, are imported, electronic components. Pharma industry, 70% of what is called API, active pharmaceutical ingredients, come from China. Government caps essential medicine prices. But non scheduled drugs, vitamins, these have jumped 10 to 15%. And who do they affect? Anyone with chronic issues or senior citizens who are taking supplements. The cumulative effect is reduced discretionary spending on enjoyment, on entertainment, on going out, and of course, lower savings and rising financial stress. We see this at Moneylife Foundation's counseling sessions. We are worried at the sharp increase in reckless borrowing. Of course, people always have an explanation for why they took money from 10 app based lenders, maxed their credit cards, took 4 personal loans. But it is frightening because they don't know where they're going to return the money from. And invariably, their first solution was start speculating in the market because they think you'll get quick money to pay back the loans, and it doesn't happen. There are more losses and your outstanding increases exponentially. We're watching this all the time. Look at what happens when you just have to travel to work. Your daily commute, apart from cooking gas, which has been managed, but you're paying more, the economic cost of just traveling, petrol prices in Mumbai have risen from 103.50 a litre in June 2025 to 111. Diesel, similar. The result is you pay more for commuting, for your app based deliveries, for transport. This adds hundreds of rupees to your household budget and it disproportionately affects low income groups, daily wage earners, small businesses. Immediate impact has still been softened because oil companies have taken their loss. But you know what's going to happen when oil prices drop, as they have been dropping ever since there's supposed to be a deal between Iran and US. These benefits will not be passed on to us because then oil companies are going to recoup their losses, which means we are in for tougher times for a while. Now, if you need to fly somewhere, aviation, domestic aviation has always been precariously placed. Liberalization only meant that one state monopoly, which was then Indian Airlines, became a series of private duopolies, many of which collapsed under huge losses, which were dumped on banks. Why does this happen? Because aircraft leases, spare parts, aviation turbine fuel, all is dollar denominated, and currency depreciation affects them. So 12% impact on the rupee has a direct impact on your air ticket. Take an example: Mumbai Delhi economy ticket, which used to cost about 8,500 to 9,200, depends. I'm not talking about all the very smart ones and when they do it. But if that was your cost in June 2025, you're now roughly paying 11,800 to 13,400. Add to it all your other expenses, traveling to the airport, a coffee that you buy, and your cost of flying in real terms is up 35 to 45%, which is big. So you travel less. Then your holidays. Holidays have hit everybody. International travel had become a thing for the aspiring middle class. Now it's more expensive because Indians pay not only for higher travel costs but the weaker rupee. So some countries where the rupee has not fallen as much may be all right, but there are hardly any. India has done more badly. Let's look at Europe, which was a favorite holiday destination. If it cost a holiday package cost you 1.9 lakh to 2.3 lakh last year, it is 10 to 20% more this year. Effective cost 15 to 25% higher, and that's exactly the impact on the travel industry, which means that many people have either postponed a holiday or cut down on one or two holidays that they take every year if they take multiple holidays. So 15 to 20% year on year hit on bookings. Now the government has solution for your petrol price. What are they doing? A new twist, which is to the food debate, because they're saying you will mix ethanol with petrol to reduce prices. While that itself is a debatable issue, I won't get into it. This means diversion of sugarcane and maize to produce ethanol. Because where does ethanol come from? It comes from food grain, sugarcane and maize. So even as India remains heavily dependent on imported fertilizer, edible oils, pulses, which are all hit, we are now saying sugarcane and maize also, let's divert to making ethanol to mix with petrol. Are we swapping one kind of problem for another? Remember, sugarcane also takes a lot of water. And you're now getting ready for a new issue, which is the impact of El Nino on our monsoon. India is a monsoon dependent country. We've already seen extremes of weather. So even if this geopolitical de escalation materializes soon, in for India, it will be staggered over the next 2 to 3 quarters, and with a new worry about the faltering monsoon, which is a dangerous new dimension for us ordinary Indians. Satellite imagery shows a dramatic collapse in the monsoon. The Indian Met Department has forecast that June September monsoon rainfall is going to be 90% of the long period average, with a 60% chance of deficient rains. In fact, that's almost certain now. Water cuts have become in cities like Mumbai. Reservoirs are saying they have 10 to 11% capacity, and multiple regions are seeing intense heat waves. What you need now is a comprehensive, coordinated government contingency plan which goes beyond routine advisory, band aids, and cuts. Where is the rainwater harvesting? Where are the solutions? They are not happening. Indians are already struggling. You know that in a place like Mumbai, which never had electricity shortages, there were power cuts in the height of summer. And policymakers keep saying, we didn't know it's going to happen. We didn't know that extreme heat means more air conditioning, so we didn't prepare for it. They need to act swiftly now to build buffers in energy, agriculture, imports, rethink the impact of depleting green cover, and without immediate action, we, the people, especially we, the middle class, are going to feel the squeeze, and this may, in fact, turn into widespread hardship over a longer term. If you agree, open your eyes, stop being blindfolded, stop being carried away by positive influences, and look at what is happening in your life and demand action. You can only demand action from your government, which you vote to power. That's what a democracy is about. If you agree, please spread the word. Thank you.